welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our macOS development with AppKit tutorial series, and in this particular video we are going to be taking a look at how we can present view controllers as a sheet and as a modal window. Now, this will introduce a few concepts like what is a modal window? What is a sheet? How do you dismiss this sheet and or modal window when you're done with it, right? So let's go ahead and get started by talking about what is a sheet. Well, a sheet is a type of dialogue that is attached in essence to your main window or whatever window it is that you are presenting that sheet from. And when that sheet is presented, you cannot perform any actions on the main UI of that window until that sheet is dismissed. Now, the same thing applies to a modal window in that when a modal window is displayed, most of the time, depending on how you configure it, you cannot interact with anything in the main Windows UI before that modal window is dismissed. You can configure a modal window to allow that, where you can interact with anything in the window that presented the modal window. But there are a lot of times when you're not going to want to do that. Okay, and again, a modal window is just like a sheet in that it's a type of window that is presented, or a type of dialogue that is presented by another view controller, but it is not directly attached to the window that presented it. It is entirely its own window. All right, so let's go ahead now and take a look at how exactly it is that we can present a modal or a sheet. Now, in NS View Controller, there are two methods. One is present as sheet and present as modal window. You can probably guess what those two methods do. Present as sheet presents whatever view controller you pass it as a sheet, and present as modal window presents whatever view controller you pass it as a modal window. Pretty simple. And when you want to dismiss this sheet and or modal window, you use the dismiss method and pass it to itself. If you want the sheet or modal to dismiss itself. If you want to programmatically dismiss the sheet or modal window from a different view controller, you need to pass it an instance. You need to pass it the instance that is presented by that view controller when it presented that sheet. All right, so let's go ahead and go into my action method for this button in my main user interface in my view controller. So the main window of our application is simply just a button in the center of the screen that says show login screen. I have a method that is used for its action called show login, and inside of here we have an instance of login screen defined as login screen, and then we're going to pass this instance to present as sheet and present as modal window. So let's go ahead and call present as sheet, and you can see this method takes in an NS view controller. We'll pass it login screen like that. We can save this. Let's go to the login screen, and I'll show you our code for dismissing this sheet. So inside of login screen, I have an email field, password field, and labels to go with them. I have a checkbox and a button. This button has an action associated with it, and inside of this action, we call the dismiss method. Right. So this login action method goes and prints logging in. And then below that, we are calling dismiss with self passed to it, because this will take in a view controller. And we want this sheet to dismiss itself. All right, let's go ahead and run our code. We have a successful build. If we click show login, now we are in our sheet. We can give it an email, password, tell it to remember us, and then we can hit login. And now the sheet dismisses. Pretty useful. If we go back into our code, what I'll do here, okay. Now let's go ahead and instead of present as sheet, we will say present as modal window. Go ahead and save that and run our code. There we go. We have a successful build. We can click show login screen. And here's our modal window. You can see it has its own title bar. It has its own traffic light controls to minimize, maximize, and close the window. We can hit login, and the window dismisses itself. And we have the show login screen button that we can access again. All right. So that's the simplest possible way that you can display a modal window and a sheet in AppKit to show any dialogues that you might need to show. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.